Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are we all?
End of another week, Friday. I feel like, do we always record on a Friday? Maybe, maybe not. Used to that. Last week was.
Yeah,
Good to be
you don't
back.
like Fridays because you're always heading to the pub or to do something fun. I'm like, what day is it? Oh, it's Friday.
I know I've always got to tell everyone in the group chat, can we do an hour earlier, please? I'm like, I've got my
The
social
pub is
fellas to
calling.
get out there.
I suppose, yeah, with my name. How are you, Katie?
Yeah, pretty good. Flying Friday. Full of energy today, which it's been a massive week for me. So I'm still cranking. Probably through the weekend, to be honest. So yeah, it's been an awesome week. What about you, Brooke? How's your week? How's everything going on your end?
Good. This is the last week of the snake. I don't know if you guys are following along with the Chinese New Year that's happening on the 17th, I believe. I hope I've got that correct. But this is the last week of the year of the snake. So just for everyone listening, and in case you guys don't know what that means, the snake year was all about shedding. So letting go of past identities, or basically just letting go of things that aren't going to serve you in your highest timeline. So we're entering the year of the fire horse, which is going to be the best year for literally everyone. I'm just gonna say that.
How is that
Um,
possible, Brooke? I need to know the ins and
Yeah,
outs of
break
this.
it down.
Break it down. The best year for everybody? How does that
well,
actually work?
so the year of the fire horse is all about. Well, let's talk about this week first, because I don't know if you have been seeing around, but I've even been seeing on my socials, people have been saying this week feels really hard. I feel exhausted. Everything's chaos. Like I feel like everything's falling apart. It's literally the last week of the snake, and it's like the final shedding is letting like everything is being let go of. So if you've noticed that friends have just weirdly been like, I don't want to be a friend anymore, or like I know that's very childish, but or just even relationships in general that are falling away. And I'm not going to say that, but yeah, if things are just like letting go, let them go. Like, don't fight for it. Like, this is literally the last week to just make sure everything that's not going to serve you in 2026 is gone. Which I think is so exciting. It puts everything into perspective. Like this week, just for me, and I know I'm pregnant, but I've also just been feeling super emotional about anything. Literally could cry at the drop of a hat. I just went to see my son's assembly and all the dragons. There was like kids with the dragons, and I'm like crying, being like, can't tell you why. I mean, obviously, I'm growing a baby, so maybe that's part of it. But I think it's also to do with like the fact that everything is just like getting ready to step into Firehorse, momentum, wealth, everything, abundance, just all coming. So
So when I'd heard about that it had been Year of the Snake, I actually thought 2026 going into the rest of the year was going to be shedding. So I didn't realize we're shedding now. God, that's good to know. I'm just looking up the fire horse here. We're on once
yeah,
every 60 years.
Every
literally, that's what I'm
year.
saying. Yes. So 2025 was the final year of this. Well, this is Chinese astrology, right? So, like, again, take it with a grain of salt. Like, I don't like placing power on external things because it kind of, I don't know, knowing that it was the year of the snake, maybe you looked for more of the shedding, you looked for more of, but now that we're coming into 2026, it's probably not going to be a bad thing that you're wiring your brain to look for the momentum, look for the visibility. But the fire horse is literally going. I don't, yeah, without outsourcing your power, and you don't want to rely on astrology to build your business, just as an FYI to everyone listening. But it's interesting that the fire horse is set to bring acceleration, bold moves, visibility, wealth expansion, innovation, just like even miracles. Like that word is coming through a lot. And it hates hesitation. So this is the year that you literally just go, 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 go. And I guess something that I want to ask you guys before we get into this episode is what over the next, say, 5 days before the 17th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 4 days, what is something that you want to let go of that you don't want to bring into this year of the fire horse?
Going to bed late for starters. I mean, that's really got to me this week. Do you think it should be a bigger goal than going to bed at 8:30?
Well, I mean, you got to ask you, what is going to bed late? What's that costing you? And
Yeah,
if it's
it's
costing you a
it's
lot, then
yeah,
yeah.
it's not good for the working. God, you're putting me on the spot. What about you, Katie?
Look, I have to think about it. Brooke, back to you. What is
Yeah, circling back.
your last minute questions that you love to throw at us? What are you letting go of this year, Brooke?
You're like, "Brooke, you didn't put this in the plan, and I don't know what to say."
Back to you. Have you thought of your answer?
Well, I'm actually just thinking as I'm talking about it, because like I said, I didn't really have anything today, but now I'm thinking about this. And I think for me, I know this year's about momentum, acceleration, visibility. It's just go, 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 go. So again, it kind of ties back to my word of audacity. Like I just want to be showing up and doing all of the things all at once. So it's just really that get up and go that I want to. So like already it's started. I wake up first thing in the morning and get myself to the gym. So I really wanted to let go that lazy kind of like I deserve some time to myself identity that just wasn't serving me. It's definitely not in line with my desire and what I actually want for myself. So I think like any time that I just feel compelled to go and sit on the couch and I'm like, I'm pregnant, I'm tired. I just want to get rid of that. I really just want to be in line with what the Firehorse is bringing. And I know if I step into that, I'm not going to have the pull to want to lay on the couch and scroll TikTok for hours. So bring it on. I'm pumped.
Okay, I've got one. My one that I'm going to let go is around avoidance. So I have been working on for a while my avoidance around conflict and avoidance around, um, like even just things at, having monthly catch ups with staff, which I know, like I do them anyway. But the
Mm.
thought, and once I get on the call, I'm like, oh, this is so great. I need to have more of these. This is awesome. But I think sometimes the thought of like things in the calendar that make me feel trapped or like I'm too structured, God forbid a once a month routine, is there's no point in like having those feelings of avoidance around those things that I actually A, like to do, B,
Mhm.
serve such a good purpose. Like all that does is sort of hold me back. So I think around leaning into it and leaning into it, and if it's to do with you know what would be an example. I think that's probably quite a big thing, is the cadence of different schedules.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think also for me, I want to learn to say no to things. I'm such a yes person. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Do you want to fly to Australia and come to this, curated dinner that I have planned? Sure. I'm just like yes to everything. And I really want to put in some boundaries this year because if I am focused on visibility, I need to start saying no to some of the things that, and this is going to sound really, I guess, like a bit arrogant, but I kind of want to be a little bit more selective of the opportunities that I say yes to. And I want to really preserve my energy and give more to the opportunities that I want to and I align with and are going to help um you know put me on bigger stages and get me in front of larger audiences. Like I want to preserve my energy for those events rather than jumping on and doing a podcast with someone that has 10 subscribers, which by the way, I would usually be like, sure, no worries. Like I never know, what's going to come off the back of that. But I think like that's actually not serving me anymore because I look at what it's taking away from and it takes away from time with my family. It takes away time that I could be spending on in the community or spending with, just moving myself forward and accelerating. It's kind of it's keeping me slow. So I'm, cutting off that.
At the top of my goals for 2025, one of the things I had written was, if you're saying yes, then what are you saying no to? And so that was a big thing for me last year, which is I feel some similarities there because I'm such a yes person as well. And you have to be in that phase. But there also comes a time when you realize there's your time, you can never get your time back.
Well, that's the thing as well. At the event, when we were speaking to some really successful business owners, it did when and last week I was speaking about the who hunting, and it was kind of having that conversation with yourself. Who can I go through? And that sort of still sits in the back of my mind where I'm like, you never do know by jumping on a podcast, even if they do have 10 subscribers, who they know or they know. But at the same time, I'm like, it is such an energy sucker for me to do that, especially some of the ones I've been going on in the US. I've been getting up, staying up late till 11 p.m. to record a podcast that maybe 5 people will see. And I'm kind of like, I also have to accept that I'm playing at a different level now. Even when I'm on these podcasts, the hosts are always like, wow, you're pretty good at this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what you were told about like me in the business, but thanks. So I know I sound so arrogant right now. Fuck. I'm like annoying myself. But what I'm actually getting at is I'm just going to be a little bit more selective with where I put my time and energy.
And I think
That's
it's
like,
all about strategic moves. So
right.
probably bouncing back to that for me, I guess more on your take, Brooke. It's kind of like doing everything and throwing a heap at the wall and I guess seeing what sticks. But
Yes.
I think it's a good year for strategy and being strategic with the moves that you're making. So knowing your outcome and strategically making the moves rather than let's do all the moves at once. And I've been guilty of this throughout my business journey. And doesn't mean you get there any faster, and it is so much harder. So I think it's just sometimes slowing down and being a little bit more strategic about
You
the
know,
move that you're going to make.
you are literally describing a game of chess right now. And that is how I want to play this year. Like a game of fucking chess, not checkers. I don't want to just like they move, I move, they move, I move. I want to be more strategic about my plays. I love that. Thank you,
And the
Katie.
hardest part as business owners is to be strategic. You do have to slow down, which I struggle with, look at the whole picture to work out the pathway forward. It's definitely something that I think is hard as business owners because we're always like, let's do this, let's try this, let's do this, let's do this, let's move, momentum, momentum. But sometimes you actually get there faster if we just slow down. So that's probably what I'm working on.
Yeah, that's such an incredible perspective, and it's such a timely reminder because we are about to step into the year of just go, 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 go. Even more so, we're going to feel like everything is elevated and heightened. So I think you're so right in saying just take a moment to sit back, decide what your next play is going to be. Because if you make the wrong play, you essentially lose the game. I don't want to lose. I want to win.
We are
Now,
winners.
I was looking at the planning sheet yesterday and I actually got really excited because some of the detail you've put down here, Katie, around how you are splitting up some of your investments and some of the calls you're making around here as just like fascinates me and I love it. And I think these sorts of things need to be talked about more. So do you want to give us the lowdown on what you are doing with some of your assets at the moment and what you're investing in?
Yeah, so believe it or not, the property gal is moving into Bitcoin. So I thought it would be an interesting topic because I know that you guys, I think, are in Bitcoin or you've had some investments there. So yeah, I've sort of had everything set up ready to buy Bitcoin probably for the last 8 months. So as you guys know, I love structure and I've been sitting on the sidelines for 8 months. So 8 months ago, I set up the Stormrake account. That is a friend of the pods, the broker. I spoke to my consultants, had the money ready to go, basically got everything organized, and I've been patiently sitting on the sidelines. And the reason is for two things. The first was that I had no knowledge about Bitcoin whatsoever, and I really didn't want to put my money and invest in an asset that I didn't even know the fundamentals of. So for the last 8 months, I have been putting time and energy into learning the asset, understanding it, reading the books, and just to know the fundamentals before I actually pulled the trigger. But the second reason is because I did feel that it was a bit sort of frothy. Everyone was talking about it, it was a big hype. And I'm all about counter cyclical investing. So, in the property game, investing in markets that people are sort of don't have a good perspective on at that point in time. And so obviously for any of our Bitcoin listeners, we know that it's obviously dropped off, I think almost 50% from the peak in October, which was around 122,000 US. I believe we're in the sort of mid 60s at the moment. So yeah, I've sort of held off it this week. I am going in. So I would love to talk about my strategy with that, but I wanted to get your perspective and your journey on your sort of Bitcoin.
Well, first, I want to know for 8 months, what have been the best places you've learnt about it
Definitely
besides
the
the
Bitcoin
nerves?
standard, as dense as it was, and I had to rewind many times. I did audio book that, quite a few times. So I think that was probably, for me, the foundation, but a lot of ChatGPT, just watching it every day, and definitely nowhere near an expert whatsoever, but at least I understand the terminology. because there's a
Mm.
whole new language that you have to learn around the asset, the same as property. So I just didn't want to pull the trigger until I felt the frothiness come down, but also that I actually understood it. So,
Mm.
Brooke, you said that you were in Bitcoin?
Yeah, we've been in it for ages. And I guess for us, we were really bullish in crypto in general. So we were like doing the whole experiment with meme coins and just all the things. Only ever using money that we were happy to essentially lose. But over the last year or so, we've probably just gone all in for Bitcoin and stopped with the whole it's like almost day trading. You really have to, be on and you get a tip from someone and then it's like everyone's there and then like everyone it's like it's actually gambling to an extent. And this is what Mark said to me the other week. He said, "You could probably put all of your wealth into Bitcoin and in 10 years' time, you would have more money than me if he goes down the property." But he was like, "You have to be so okay with watching it drop drastically." And he's like, "I wouldn't be able to sleep at night." So it's like that risk tolerance we're talking about. And that's definitely not where I want to be. I don't want to see my wealth, my entire wealth. So I think just making sure you're okay with how much you're putting in and knowing that it's probably going to drop even more. You probably should wait a little bit more. I would from what I've read before you buy in. But then all this stuff with Epstein, and I know this is a bit of a hot topic at the moment, but all the conspiracies around him largely contributing to the beginning of Bitcoin is I'm going to choose the word interesting. So yeah, I don't know if you have any opinions on that.
I think that from my perspective, from my wealth journey, I'm only putting in like less than 1% of
Yeah.
my entire net worth. So I'm not going exactly big into the space, but I hope to actually increase it up to about a 10% of my entire wealth. So clearly, property is still where most of my wealth will be built. But I think it's good to diversify your assets. And obviously now, from since I've been watching it, being less than a 50%, I don't mind a 50% discount. Viv, did you say that you were in Bitcoin as well? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I've had it for years, and I'm kind of the same. I am someone who look, my often your biggest weakness is also your biggest strength, and vice versa. And when it comes to investing, it might take me 6 months to sort my shit out and set up my automatic payments. But once I do, I absolutely forget about them, and it just goes on autopilot. So I have it set up that I invest every week into Bitcoin shares, my super whatever. So it's all happening. So I don't even, and again, I don't even look at it. So when things are going up or down, I don't even see it, because for me it's all about, I'm not planning on ever really touching that money unless something pops up where say someone else yesterday said, "Do you want to invest in our business?" I might go, "Okay, cool." I might pull out of something that's up rather than down, but otherwise my intention is to never really touch it and to just build on it. And I think the more that I'm not someone, I think I started listening to the Bitcoin Standard and I got bored. I was like, "Yeah, who cares? Whatever." Again, I'm 30. I should be doing the risky, taking all these punts in the situation I'm at. So for me, I think some of the things that stood out as, or I guess solidified for me around its value, have been around the just how secure it is, in terms of no one is in control of it. I love that there are examples around the world of banking being accessible for people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to have access to bank accounts. The transfer of money is a lot faster compared to banks. If you look at I believe, and God, no financial person here, but once you're over 250K of cash in a bank, for example, your money is not what's it called, secured or whatever. You've got these crashes or hyperinflation that's happened in different countries. I think there was an episode on the Unemployable main channel from the guy who was at Lebanon, and the banks crashed overnight and lost all their wealth. So I can see as well, in a world with so much globalization, how there will be a lot of people who will just operate with Bitcoin, use a Revolut card. It doesn't operate any differently to your normal debit card or credit card. So why would these people ever go back to normal banking, where there are, not even from like a conspiracy point of view, but just because inflation is so hectic, and it's just secure because it's computers. The hardest part is making sure that you know all your passwords and stuff. So I think there is intrinsic value in that, which is why I'm happy to put a percentage away. But for me, it's just on autopilot. So I'm like, it's up, it's oh wow, it
And
just keeps
you know
going
what,
in.
Viv, what you might not know is that you're probably using what I think to be one of the best strategies, which is dollar cost averaging. So whether you're aware of that or not, but that's exactly my strategy with getting into Bitcoin. It's, putting a small percentage now is kind of what we're doing. And then we're going to dollar cost average the remaining amount. So
Yeah.
basically that just means putting a smaller amount in each week, each month, whatever time frame you decide, so that you're never buying the peak, you're probably never buying the low, you're just averaging out. And they say that overall, over time, that actually works out to be much better. So that's kind of my strategy. And then I have got some notifications set up that if it does sort of drop into the 50s and kind of gets lower, then I'll be putting a bigger chunk in. But yeah, it's a whole new world, that's for sure.
I feel like buying Bitcoin when it's exciting is consumption, and we see a lot of people do that. But buying Bitcoin when it's uncertain, it's actually investing, which is what we're actually talking about right now. It's buying right now when everybody else is getting scared and pulling out, is when you really should hold. So Adam speaks about this a lot, Adam Hudson, and he really does give a lot of faith in Bitcoin. So if you're not following him, you should, because he really explains the importance of holding and not just being a follower and a sheep and someone who gets scared and just takes their money out. Um, so yeah, I love that you've taken some time, Katie, to learn about Bitcoin and to feel comfortable about actually investing in it, not just buying it and not just consuming it because it's exciting and it's what everyone's doing. I think that's a really good lesson.
And I think the main
And I
difference that I've sort of learned, and I'm sure that there is products out there, but the probably one of the big differences that I guess I'm struggling with in the asset is the manufactured growth and also the leverage. Because in property, we can do a fixer upper, we can do a development to manufacture growth and to make that asset bigger, and also we can leverage. And so I guess learning the differences between it is probably the two things that I am missing with this asset. But, you have to diversify.
And I think for people who want to get started, it can be a little bit overwhelming around, wait, what's a wallet? What's an exchange? You've mentioned one, Katie, which I don't think is as straightforward as just some of the easier platforms where you can just sign up and like, what have you got in? Is it SwiftX or Binance or in Australia, or I don't even know, or even there's even platforms like I'm sure on Sharesies you can buy crypto now, and there is a difference between holding it on a platform versus having it in your own wallet versus a cold storage wallet. But I think like anything, the first step is just to get started. So who cares about what fees you're paying? If you're doing debit, like bank card or bank transfer, who cares? Just if you want to get started, take some kind of action and get it in process, and then you can figure out, okay, I'm paying too many fees over here, I'll change it up, or I'll do it a bit differently. It's just getting started is often the bit that you need to get over the hump of.
I will say, for me, I am very much about kind of letting Scott take care of our investments and sorting out where our money is going and how we're going to build our wealth. So I feel like I know a little bit about everything, a little bit. I know what we're investing in, but I don't necessarily know much about what's going on. That's the way that I like to keep it, because for me, that really throws me into my masculine. I feel like I'm in my masculine all day long at work. I'm just always in a very masculine role. And so the fact that he takes care of that, it really allows me to drop into my feminine a bit more. Actually, like this morning I woke up and I'm making Oakland breakfast. I'm doing his lunchbox, and Scott was on a meeting with our accountant to sort out how we're going to set ourselves up so that we're not paying a shit ton of tax. And like, to me, that's just so important, is to actually recognize moments where I can actually be a little bit more feminine, because like being a woman in business, I feel like this isn't spoken about enough, but I am masculine all day long, and I find it really difficult at times unless I'm actively receiving and open to receiving to be feminine. So like Scott sometimes on the scooter has to grab my hand and like actually show him affection, and I'm like, "Oh, right. He needs some physical touch." And so I'm very big on, as much as I want to know a little bit about everything, because I like to chime in conversations where I can. I do very much, I am a little bit hands off when it comes to what we're going to do with our wealth. And he'll always talk to me about it, but the decisions, I'm fully like, you've got this. This is your kind of department.
It's so good that you have the partnership and the trust, to be able to let go of that because, it is quite a big, important part, I
Mm.
think, of our own journey. So it's pretty amazing that, you are able to kind of let go of that massive chunk of life. I definitely like to control it on my end. I love to understand it. I guess I also do have quite a passion for it. So for me, it's what I do in my spare time. So, I do find it fun. So I, love that I can, help us together. And like I've said in the past, me and my husband are very 50-50. So he's absolutely 50% on the journey as well as I'm 50%. So I'm not ready to let go of that part yet.
Mm. I wonder if that will change when you become a mom. Like, if you will start to want to give up a little bit more on, like, I don't say, sorry, give up's not the right word, but I wonder if you'll be more pulled to let him take more control of that, or if you will always be someone that's like, no, I actually really enjoy this. I want to be a part of it. It'll be so interesting to see what happens and like what changes in the dynamic of the relationship
And I
when.
finally get some like female hormones because, as we've talked about in the past, I am very much a masculine energy. Um, Definitely, I think full of, full of masculine energy. So, it will be interesting when I kind of go through the female hormones with pregnancy, again, how that might change. But hey, I wanted to bring talking about that. Viv, I need to hear this story. I've just seen lube in the notes and not much else. What is going on?
Lube.
So someone messaged me on LinkedIn. I never check my LinkedIn messages. They're just full of random things. And every now and then I go through and do a big check of it all. And I realized someone had said, "Hey, we're filming a feature film and there's a scene where a lady is locked out of her house and is she naked? I don't know. Anyway, she's locked out of her house. She's a bit resourceful, needs to figure out how she can get in, and she covers herself in lube to like slide it back in through the window. And so this lady was asking, can we have lube? It'd be great to showcase a New Zealand brand that we can get her to cover herself in for the movie. And I said, absolutely. And so I sent her an email and said, hold on, but like, how much lube do you need? Like, how much, do you want me to estimate how much lube you need to cover a person in lube? Or do you already know? I'm like, we've got 100 mil at a time. Like, what? And I had to screenshot it and put it on LinkedIn and say, just when you think you've seen it all, because I think that, like, look, at the, I always tell people I'm really just a computer nerd. I look at my screen all day and I sell widgets, but man, you just can't make some of this stuff up. So I don't know if you guys have any ideas on how much lube you need to cover a person. I thought that could also be a good Instagram reel as well. Like, come along with me today as I try to figure out how much lube it takes to cover my whole body. That'd be a good
Kind
video.
of like guessing the number of jelly beans in the jar. It's like, how much lube does one person need? I mean, how long is the piece of string? Who knows? Like, how covered does she want to be? Does she like?
I
No.
know. So anyway, yeah, have you got an idea, Katie? Have you tried it before?
Definitely no idea on that. But it's so interesting because like what you said, Viv, like you just never know what's around the corner with business. Like that is just one thing you could never predict. And I think it's, down to your problem solving skills, which we all are aces at in business.
Yeah, that's actually the whole point of me writing that down on the sheet, wasn't it? Thanks for prompting me on that, Katie.
Bullish in crypto as well. So we were like doing the whole experimental with meme coins and just all the things. Only ever using money that we were happy to essentially lose. But over the last year or so, we've probably just gone all in for Bitcoin and stopped with the whole. It's like almost day trading. You really have to be on, and you get a tip from someone, and then it's like everyone's there, and then like everyone, it's like it's actually gambling to an extent. And this is what Mark said to me the other week. He said, you could probably put all of your wealth into Bitcoin, and in 10 years' time, you would have more money than me if he goes down the property. But he was like, you have to be so okay with watching it drop drastically. And he's like, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. So it's like that risk tolerance we're talking about. And that's definitely not where I want to be. I don't want to see my entire wealth. So I think just making sure you're okay with how much you're putting in and knowing that it's probably going to drop even more. You probably should wait a little bit more. I would, from what I've read, before you buy in. But then all this stuff with Epstein, and I know this is a bit of a hot topic at the moment, but all the conspiracies around him largely contributing to the beginning of Bitcoin is that's a problem. I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm just going to say yes. I'm going to do the thing, and it will take care of itself.
Well, and I think I've mentioned before that only 1% of people post, or 1 or 2% of people on LinkedIn post more than once a week. I went through the DMs, there were 2 podcast invites, and there was also someone wanting to, cover themselves in lube for a movie. Honestly, posting on LinkedIn even once a week it is the lowest admin possible for the highest return. And I often use flights when you've got no internet as a good time to lock in and write some posts, or if things pop up like that email, I just screenshot it, put it up. It stands out. It's so easy.
And I love the concept of problem solving in business, because I think the bigger the problem that you can solve, the more you're going to get paid. And for any of our listeners who are sort of, maybe they're at the start of their journey, they're wanting to start a business, they don't know how to start a business, like, where do I even begin? I think where you should begin is, what problems do you currently have that you can solve for yourself? It's like, get a journal, go about your day, and if anything pisses you off, write it down. Be like, cool, that's a problem in my day. That's a problem in my day. And, as you're going through your life, start creating a journal of problems that you are personally having. And if you're having the problem, there's absolutely going to be other people that are having the same problem. And if you can then solve that problem for yourself, you are then going to be able to solve it for other people. And then it's just about packaging that up to be a sellable solution. And I think that, for any of our business owners wanting to get started, I think that is the best way to start in business.
Hormozy says solve rich people's problems.
And I'll say my housemate had an idea the other day, and I said that I think is a really good idea, and I can't say it because I'm bullying him into starting it. But he said once we had the concept, the other thing I would suggest is going onto Google Trends and looking up the term or the product or the thing, because yes, I agree, like a clothing brand, if you can put the hours in, brand it, and build that brand, you can always create your own market. However, if you are not only solving a problem but also piggybacking on the back of a trend, double whammy. So that can also be another good way for celebrity validation.
That's what She Sells was. Like, we literally were like, okay, what is a problem that, well, firstly, that I had. So I was a teacher. I felt like my income was capped. I felt like we were living paycheck to paycheck. It wasn't even like I felt, we were living paycheck to paycheck, and there was nothing that I could do to get myself ahead. And that's, to be completely honest with you, sales fell on my lap. But then I started to realize, okay, well, what is the main reason someone wouldn't look to explore a different career? Because they're too scared to leave a job that's actually giving them a secure salary. So what if we could package together learning sales and creating a business opportunity for them just to be able to segue into? It like takes away, because I'm not in the market of, I don't want to be paid for a woman to take a risk. That's not what I'm about. I want them to be able to come in knowing that if they follow the steps, they literally do what's required of them, they will get a job. And at the end of the day, it does come down to them being, how good they can get at it. But ultimately, the BizOp was the best decision ever, because it's literally a no-brainer. Like, it has an ROI attached to it. So in terms of measuring risk, it's like this big. Why would you not do that? I mean, this is the problem you're facing currently. We can solve it. And not only can we solve it with you being able to earn back your investment within the first 3 months, but you have the opportunity then to double, triple, make much more money than what you've ever had in your 9 to 5. Like, it's literally a no-brainer.
And so, Brooke, did you kind of leave teaching and then get into remote sales, and that's kind of where the journey started?
I, for a long time, did teaching alongside remote sales. So I would just sell in wherever I could. I would open up. So like, I'm literally a living, breathing billboard for She Sells, because I did the actual thing. I kept teaching because I was so worried about leaving a secure 9 to 5. We're literally conditioned from the moment we step into the classroom to be a good employee, which is what I was being. And I also had my mom being like, "Oh my goodness, don't you dare give up teaching." Like, gosh, when I got my registration renewal, she was like, "Please, Brooke, just for a backup, you just keep it going." So like I had that constantly there, and I kept telling myself, "Oh, but this makes me feel good, like it's a cup filler." But no, it wasn't that at all. It was mainly just I was too scared to cut the rope because commission only frightened the shit out of me, even though I was literally more than tripling my fortnightly
How many
salary.
I was
What a
gonna say, how many
lesson.
till you decided, "Okay, I believe it now, I'm gonna be okay"? Like, how long did it take before you went all in?
A long time. Like, we're talking,
Really?
well, over a year of doing both. Yeah.
And like, what a lesson for our listeners. It's like you had a pain point, you
Mm.
then trialed that pain point, and you've created an amazing business out of it. And I think it just goes back to what we were saying. It's like, what are your life pain points? Try and solve it for yourself, package it up, and solve it for other people. That's so awesome.
I think what really helped me also is understanding, like, why am I doing this? Why am I literally have an opportunity right in front of me that's unlocked everything that I've possibly could want from a role. It allows me to be more present at home with my son, which is what I asked for. I have that sitting there, and yet for some reason I couldn't let go of my teaching, and it started to not make sense. And as soon as I cut the rope to that, it's just like everything fell into place. Like truly everything did. So it's kind of like a good reminder to I'm not a massive fan of burning the boats, though I do think there comes a time and place where you do have to cut the rope and actually back yourself. Back yourself. Be like, I've got this. I've put in the work. I know what I'm doing. Like by letting go of something that's no longer serving me, no matter how good it makes me feel or how good it makes me look, like what's going to come from me just going, you know what? I 100% am diving into this industry head first. And She Sells was birthed. I mean, that would not have happened unless I let go of education. So,
I've recommended a podcast to a couple of people lately. And on a side note, I seem to be the person that people come to when they want to quit their job. So that's been a thing of mine of late. But when people do come to me, there's often, whether they've got something on the side already or not, there's one podcast that I always recommend to them, and actually people going through breakups often, is a podcast called Why We Do What We Do by Tony Robbins. And it talks about the 6 emotional human needs. And it talks about how, there might be something like that, Brooke, where you're earning this amazing amount of money. It's well outperforming your teacher salary, but something inside of you goes, but I just can't quite do it. And the 6 emotional needs that he talks about are like, let's see if I can do them: certainty, uncertainty, love and connection, growth, contribution. Love and connection must be 2. Yeah. And maybe there's 6. Anyway, whatever that might be, 5 or 6. But if something meets 3 of your emotional human needs, it will become an addiction or hard to break.
I think
So if you're talking about your teacher's salary, you're talking about growth, you're talking about certainty, you're talking about connection with other people, like it's so many things that to turn that upside down, just like a breakup. If all of a sudden you stop living with someone, you're telling me you're living somewhere different, you've broken up with someone, that's your certainty, that's your connection, that's your love, that's your growth. All of those things have been part of you. So when you start having feelings of, wait, maybe I'm feeling like this because it's the wrong thing to do, that's not necessarily fact. It could just be because you've been so shaken up. So when you are, when you've got to take those really courageous, brave steps, I think the one thing that helped me was listening to that podcast going, okay, objectively, I know that this is just a normal human thing that I'm doing. But then also, as and we've probably talked about, it's just that fitness factor as well. Once you do one of the things, then it's easier the next time. It's not a big deal. And you just get better and better at it.
really powerful. We do this in sales conversations, and it's aligned with human psychology, but a really powerful reframe to do with yourself when you're trying to make a big decision, or you're trying to be courageous or brave in backing yourself or cutting the rope to something, is to future pace yourself and don't allow you to indulge in fantasy porn, I call it. Like, don't be thinking, oh, if I quit my job, I'm going to be making $200,000 per month. Like, no. Keep it concrete. actually write out your ideal, like a day in the life from your ideal self, to literally from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to bed, every small little detail, whether that be you being able to wake up and make your family breakfast without rushing and being able to drop them off at school, get to the gym, come home, open up your calendar, take a few calls, whatever it is, write it out. And then ask yourself, if I was sat in a cafe with that version of me, what would she tell me to do right now? And it makes everything so easy. Because when you're anchored in that, you start moving like her, you start making decisions like her, everything is easy. It doesn't become a should I, shouldn't I? It's like, no, that's the only option. That is the only option. So it's a really powerful communication strategy, not only with yourself, but with potential clients who are really on that cusp of should I, shouldn't I? Should I just stay in my 9 to 5 and just keep climbing the corporate ladder, or should I take a risk and back myself? It's like, well, before you make any decisions, actually write out your ideal future. What do you want it to look like? Because if climbing the corporate ladder is taking you nowhere near where you want to go, why the fuck would you do it?
I just started reading a book the other day called, oh my God, I've got to come to with these things with facts instead of just thinking about them on the spot. It's called Design. I think it's called Designing Your Life. Yeah, that was
I want to
pretty
go
good.
back to listen to all the podcast
Yeah.
episodes. Being like, I'm reading this great book called.
Yeah, real light on the details. Really light on the details. Anyway, it's called Designing Your Life. It's by a couple of professors. Can't remember where they're from, but anyway, it talks about they apply the theory of design thinking to goal setting, and it takes you through like an activity based sort of book around how you can sort of live out your values. And they do give examples of people who might be in work and they might really not being like really not enjoying it, can't figure out why, and either helping them move or figuring out what they need from that role to make sure that they are satisfied. So if you are stuck, that's a good one. Good luck finding it, seeing as it's not the title. Yeah.
And I've got a question for you, Viv. I know that there's a lot of listeners in the e-com space. It's definitely not my wheelhouse at all. But why don't you give the listeners a few tips, like something that they should look at if they're in the e-com space? You're our e-com girl.
Did you not just hear? She doesn't remember the title of the book. She's gonna be like, well, there's some really great podcasts that you could listen to, but I'm gonna have to get back to know what they are.
In the show notes.
Oh man, do you know what I reckon? This is the first thing that comes to my mind from what I was looking at today is just know your numbers. Like know your numbers and figure out what your look at your numbers year on year instead of trying to grow every month. It like for e-commerce, if you do have a seasonal product, which often things change, like traditionally January is a very extremely slow time for e-commerce. I don't know why that is. I'm theorizing and saying maybe it's because people are they've they've done their Christmas shopping. There's probably some people out there setting money goals, so they're probably holding the purse strings a bit tighter. People are actually doing stuff. I feel like this time of year, people are back from holiday, but if I look at all the people around me, they're out there doing it. So yeah, look, a number of different things, but what's important is knowing your numbers so you can understand what's our, gross profit as a percentage, how's our net profit, what are we, what's the business spitting out at the end of the day. But also when we're setting goals and we're looking at, have we done well this month? It's based on last year at the same month, not last month or the month before, or, for sex toys, June last year, while everyone's at home playing with themselves. So it's knowing the numbers and figuring out as well, what is it per market? So are you, growing in a market, going down in a market, but you haven't realized because you're just looking at revenue. So yeah, it's pretty broad in chat for e-commerce, but the reality is that sometimes the most important stuff is the boring, just having a look, seeing where it's going.
I wanted to ask you guys something, because last night I caught up with, she's my social media manager. She does all of my social planning. She's absolutely incredible. She's only 24. She's a baby, but she's so driven and she's exceptional at what she does. So a lot of her success in her own business has come from referrals, organic marketing. And last night she sat down, we were at dinner, and she just looked at me, and my other girlfriend was there that she also manages. So she was sort of there with her clients. And she said, if you were to give me any advice right now on how to scale my business, what would you do? And I thought this was such a great question. I mean, she's 24. She's already thinking about scaling her business. I'm keen, before I told you what I said, I'm keen to hear the advice that you would have given her. So just for some context, she has a social media marketing business. She's a one-man show. She only relies on organic um, marketing. So all of her clients have come through organic or through referrals. And she is wanting to scale in 2026. What would be your advice to her?
I think fundamentally, if you are looking at a business like that, you are selling your time at the end of the day. So she needs to first and foremost make sure that she has got her numbers right in terms of, I mean, I've had this business before. We time tracked how much were we actually spending per client per week. Therefore, are we charging the right thing? That's first and foremost. Secondly, realize you have to bring people on. What are they going to cost? What are you going to have to charge out to make the money back? Remembering you've got to pay them, all the rest of it. You've got to have a good margin. You can't, you've got expenses. And figuring out then what are the, thing about businesses, if she's got a really good system and process down around how she pumps different stuff out for clients, there has to be either hiring people who can see what she does, but it's going to be very tricky unless she has some kind of formula with clients that she runs through and can replicate. Otherwise, she'll end up being the bottleneck, but at the same time, scaling a business is going to be messy at the start. And then she needs to go out and find a way to get clients, and she has to turn that into a repeatable way to get clients, because if it's not repeatable, then again, that's going to be another bottleneck. So is it going to be social media marketing, either with her personal brand? Is it going to be paid marketing? Is it going to be referral based? Is she going to get her staff, bringing on clients? Those are the things I think about. There's a lot to think about.
Sequential perspective to look at is, I feel like it's more of a quality business, because if she then quantifies and expands and gets all of these clients on, what kind of quality will you then be getting? So another kind of lever to pull is, unfortunately, Brooke, just charge you guys a bucket load more. And instead of trying to scale with clients, let's pull the other lever and just charge more.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely something. So my advice was very similar to yours, Viv. I was like, you need to buy back some of your time, because right now she's capped at taking 10 clients on, and she's almost there. And 10 clients, by the way, isn't just, a couple of hours a day by the pool. It's like working 10-hour days, 7 days a week. So she is doing it all. So I said to her, you definitely need to look at the goals of what you want to actually achieve by scaling. Like, do you want to be able to take on more clients, or do you want to make more money? Because if you want to make more money, then yes, pull on the lever of actually charging more. But right now she's outsourcing staff, and you'll never believe how much they're. So she charges right now $2,500 to take over one of your social platforms. So let's say it's Instagram. She will post 5 days a week for you. She learns your voice. She does all of the planning, the editing, the captions, the ManyChat automations, everything. Okay? Guess how much she charges for 1 month?
Did you just say $2,500?
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's cheap. I'm like, that is so cheap. In fact,
Australian or US?
Australian. When she told me that in the beginning, I almost was like, oh, like.
And she does your edits as well on your photos, etc.
Yep,
Wow.
everything. Now, she's got contractors coming in to offload some of the tasks that are a bit more monotonous. Like, she doesn't actually, it's not quality based, it's more just like time. Do you know how much they're basically charging 50% of the fee. So they're charging $1,000 per client that they give her, that she gives them, sorry. So she's actually acquired the business. Then she goes to a contractor and says, hey, I'm going to give you some of these tasks. They're charging $1,000 per client. She's only walking away with $1,500 in her pocket.
But does she have to do anything? Obviously she does.
Yes, she has to.
Oh, yeah, that's not right.
That's not right.
No, and I also think there's probably I like what you're saying around buy back your time, because if you can just keep moving up levels of, okay, well, I don't need to do the onboarding anymore, or I don't need to do the scheduling anymore, and just one by one level up on some of those tasks. That's a good way to make it work. But there's also that conversation around, at the end of the day, you are adding value to other people's businesses. So one of the things that I struggled with in the agency world was, if you're talking about small business, they like the value that you need to provide to them for what they need, aka sales now, often the time, is it takes a lot of hours. Like, look at Girls Get Off and how much time we spend on our social accounts. Like, that's actually not feasible for them to outsource to the level that they need for the value that they need. Even though they might say they want to outsource it, it's not going to be the best for your business. Whereas your business, that makes financial sense. So there's also that element of figuring out who your clients are and where you can add the most amount of money. Like, we started managing some accounts for music festivals where it's all just about how much awareness can we get across the board everywhere, because it will just lead to people buying tickets. It's not like one story, one ticket, it's not as black and white as that. So figuring out that niche where she can dial in with people.
And
where adds
a
more
potential
value.
business for our listeners as well. Like, that's quite a good business for some female entrepreneurs out there wanting to get started. Like, where do I start? If you're good at content, there's so many business opportunities. Like all of us business owners, I'm sure we would happily, hand over our social accounts, for example, for a savvy content creator.
Well, this is what's great is like I actually went through a lot of content creators before I signed up with the one that I have, because for me, I really wanted that personalized. Like, I wanted business owner eyes across my content because I'm like, quality is very important to me. I didn't just want an editor slap together some stuff with spelling mistakes and then it just pump, 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 pump. That's not the approach that I wanted. But one of the bits of advice that I gave her was when hiring someone, because one of her concerns was, I'm worried that I'm going to bring someone on, teach them all of the things that I know and that I do, and then they're going to be like, all right, thanks, I'm going to go start my own business. And so, firstly, I reframed her on thinking, because to me, that's just thinking scarcity limitation instead of like looking at what's possible and what you can actually do. That was the first thing. But the second thing, I was like, when you're interviewing these people, you need to be making sure you're looking for entrepreneurs, not someone who's like, well, I'm only doing this for a couple of years and then I want to go and start my own thing. She needs someone that's going to grow with the business. And the best way to do that is to ask some questions around what motivates them, to give them a really great growth and incentive plan so that they do feel like the business is theirs, but they don't have to wear the risk. And guess what? There's people in the world that love that don't want to be a business owner. They want to be an entrepreneur and actually grow with the business and climb the ranks and do all of that. So I said to her, you really do need to find someone like that. She actually went to uni. She can get an apprenticeship, 19-year-old, come in, pay them a salary, give them incentives and bonuses, teach them, get her to shadow. I was like, that's definitely your first move, to give yourself some time to actually think about what you want to do with your business. Where do you want to take it? How do you want it to grow? What are you driven by? What monetary value what in terms of revenue do you want to hit every year? Like, she needs to really put together a bit of a plan. So
I also think I'm also just calculating the hourly rate that she's paying to outsource, and that's about like, okay, so say like one post takes an hour, which is a lot of time. That for you're effectively saying like $45 an hour. That is, I would almost say that's a tricky position to be in, because you can hire the person and hire the entrepreneur so they can work in your business, or the other option is actually pay someone more, pay them $60-$70 an hour, the person who wants to be a freelancer, wants to be flexible and do the contract model, but pay them enough so they're the kind of person you don't have to do anything. So then she can just work on the marketing for the, getting clients, and she can, assign, okay, we've got some like tradies, I'm going to assign them with my tradie freelancers. Like, there's a couple of different ways to skin the cat, but I've seen it work either way.
This is my point though, right? Imagine if she actually thought about her ideal lifestyle. What does she want her business to look like in 5 years' time, and then reverse engineer it? Like, that is literally the best way to do it. But I feel like a lot of our listeners are either already business owners, or maybe they do want to start to think about how they can scale their business, especially in 2026, when like it's just acceleration, momentum, visibility. So like, really, these are the conversations you should be having with yourself over the next couple of weeks. Is if you do want to scale and you feel a bit stuck about which direction should I take, start to think, where do you want your business to be in 5 years, maybe even 12 months. If 5 years is too far down the line, think 12 months and really know your numbers, get down to like exactly what you would like to see in the conversation you'd like to have with yourself, and then reverse engineer. And if you don't know where to start, find someone who can help you.
And I think as well before scaling, it's like making sure that, your conversions are good, that the profitability is good, because you have to make sure that it is something worth scaling before putting that time and energy into it. I think start small, stay small, until you've kind of, if you think of a boat, with business, there's always holes in the boat and you have to plug the holes, to make sure it doesn't sink. And sometimes if you scale too fast, too quickly, the whole boat can sink. So I think just making sure that all of the holes in the boat are plugged before scaling is important.
My philosophy, well, my mentality, or I guess belief, is a little different, because I think if you're not growing, you're dying. And so like sometimes feel like plugging the holes actually would be fixed by you scaling. So like if I'm just even thinking about her business, some of the holes that she needs to plug can only be achieved by her actually taking the next step in her business. So it's like every business is going to look different, but even for us, like we absolutely had no idea that people even wanted what we had, but we just had to go to the moon. It was like that was the only option. So like we just went full guns a blazing. Like hopefully what we put out is actually wanted by people, and that was the best thing we ever did. So
And I
I
think
think sometimes you can over prepare, and otherwise, like yes, otherwise sometimes it's going to blow up in your face, but other times you might just hit a winning streak
and
and
I
just
think
go.
the women's internal thought process. I mean, intuition is where I was going with that. Some people think it's a bit woo woo, but I fully believe that a difference between men and women in business, and something that we do have on them, is intuition. So you've really got to trust that gut and trust that intuition. And like you said, Brooke, I'm sure you probably had that intuition and you were like, screw it, I'm going to the moon.
Yeah, look, intuition, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. I did wholeheartedly believe that I would be able to do it. And I definitely 1000% leaned into that. That's where I got all of my conviction, all of my certainty from. The knowing that I would do whatever it takes to make it work. So it was like, yes, I was throwing things at the wall and hoping that this rocket would take us to the moon. But ultimately, I'm going to be a bit lame here, that the astronaut that I knew that I was going to make that landing. Like I just knew. I just had this like deep feeling that I
You are just like your metaphors. This is just unmatched. Your teaching degree is just it's just phenomenal. I just don't understand. You're such a natural communicator when it comes to like solidifying people's messages. I'm often sitting here like, and just wheels are turning over, and you're just these are just keynote speeches. I love it, and I'd
oh my
speak the
God.
art of you, but
I'm
it's so
sitting here
good.
being like, I don't know if this is landing, but what landing? There we go again. I have no idea, but you know what? I'm gonna make it work.
But how beautiful is the woman's intuition, and especially in business. Like, I obviously love having everything planned, and, I am quite strategic in that measure, but at the end of the day, if my intuition tells me something, I am going all in, and most of the big decisions that I have made in business have actually come from my intuition. So
You know
it's
what,
amazing.
Katie? We would make really good business partners because we are legit opposite humans. And I think that's so beautiful. I think you would bring so much of what I don't.
Rigidness.
Well, I'm saying I need that, but I reckon I would bring a little bit more like, I don't know, chaos. I don't know
One
if
of
that's
the
something.
one of the finest moments when Viv called me rigid. So I'd
Did
I'd
I? I'm glad that was you,
I
Viv.
don't think before I speak. I don't know if you've figured it out yet, but I don't. It gets me into trouble so much. When did I say that? Don't know. Anyway, sorry.
episode 1. Look, I'll take it as a compliment, to be honest, because, I think that, having that strategy and that rigidness, it is important in the journey that I want to go in. So look, it's a compliment to me.
It is.
Oh,
No,
and
and that's
the
what I'm
She's
saying.
Unemployable podcast needs the rigidness. Katie is the first one every week to say, I've done the notes. I'm like, oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, we're doing the notes. We're doing the notes. I got into it.
That's literally why I said it, Katie, because I feel like everything that I am not, you are. And I'm not saying that everything I am, you're not, but I just think we would mesh so well, would probably butt heads a lot, but in a really constructive way where you're like, well, have you thought about this? And I'd be like, no, I haven't thought about what happens once I land on the moon. I thought I was just going to jump on out. Whereas like, I will take us to the moon, but then you can give us the systematic approach once we land.
We're on. Let's go to the moon. Who's ready to go to the moon?
That's a good place to finish.
Yes, what an ending. We're off to
Well done. See you next week.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.